Welcome back to Building My Dream Shop, and over the next couple of days we are finally going to get the shop wired up for power. So we decided to bring 100 amps of power into the shop. I think that'll be plenty for what I need down the road. We're gonna hook up this 100 amp sub panel today. This is actually just a main breaker panel. Sub panels are really hard to find. So this is what I'm using in here. It is a main breaker. And per my research, the only difference between a main breaker and a sub panel is bonded and unbonded. That means on your main breaker, your neutrals and your grounds are bonded together and kind of grounded to this box. So if you're using this as a sub panel, we just have to make sure these are unbonded or not touching. So we're gonna get the whole shop wired up today inside, and then next week, hopefully when the ground dries up a little bit, we'll actually bring power in from the house. So I made a haul from Home Depot and got a couple things that I think I would need. I'm gonna run most of my Romex in some liquid tape, I think this is called. So we'll run this and get the wires up to the top. As you can see up top, I already ran a 1x6. I think that'll be pretty easy with getting the wires from left to right of the shop. That way I can just run them up in conduit and then take them all the way over, staple them to the wood, and then I'll just drop them down on the front and back where my trusses are, like as I need to add electrical outlets down the road. So today we're going to be wiring up our switches for our shop lights up top. And I'm actually just going to wire up a receptacle, switch receptacle on those. That way we can plug in, whatever lights we need down the road and just turn them on, and we'll have an outlet up top. And then we're also going to hook up a 20 amp receptacle for some shop power, and then a 15 amp receptacle for our deep freezer and some other stuff like that. I got a 12-2 whip for the 20 amp receptacle, and then we're just going to run 14-2 Romex for the rest of it. Got a couple different clamps to kind of secure this to the metal shop. Got some connectors to go into the power box, and then I got some self-tapping screws so I can attach everything. So for the ceiling receptacles, we're just running these plastic blue boxes. It's a single gang outlet box, or receptacle box I should say, and we did run that 1x4 on the top of our cross beam on the trusses. I secured that with some metal screws, and so now I can just lay this tab and receptacle box up top and just secure it in, and then we'll wire it up. I'm not a professional, and I'm not recommending anybody do this type of electrical work yourself. I've done a lot of research and checked with my county, and I'm gonna follow my county code as close as possible. That being said, I recommend you hire a professional electrician for your work. So you pretty much just cut your conduit to length, take your compression fitting off, slide that down the end, put your fitting right there like so, and then just tighten this up. So I got one run for the lights up top, ran, and now I'm coming back with the second one. But guys, this is a lot harder than I thought it was gonna be. This Romex, I guess I should have looked up how to deploy it because it keeps on getting kinks in it every time I try and unroll it. And I go out there with like an extension cord, swing it around like a lasso, trying to get it unrolled. I'm sure there's a correct way to unroll this stuff, but yeah, it is going a lot slower than I thought. For the ones that have been following along on this building, these yellow straps up here, they're just 2 straps I put up for wall tension. A few engineers and a bunch of the guys on the last video recommended that I put some metal aircraft, cables with some tensioning ties, just to kind of support them and just leave the trusses how they were. So that being said, I threw these straps up here while I'm working on here on the ladder, just so it doesn't sway or I don't put any additional pressure on the walls I don't want to until I get these trusses addressed. But that being said, the building did pass inspection. So that's super cool. The inspector actually came out and he walked around the building a little bit. I don't even think he looked up, honestly, guys. He just kind of walked around and he checked the anchors around the perimeter. So he measured those to make sure they were like every 4 feet, I think it was, whatever the county code is here. But yeah, he walked around, he measured the anchors, made sure they were drilled into the concrete. He looked at the closures on the bottom, on the outside of the building, did a quick walk around the outside and make sure the eaves and all that stuff were boxed in correctly. That's it. He didn't even really look at the trusses. So anyway, so that is good news. It's good news. The building is passed and it is clear to work in. I'm just pretty much pulling about 6 to 8 inches of slack up in the boxes, cutting the wires off. Then I'll go back through and I'll install all the receptacles, then tie everything in, and then run down my switches. For the switch boxes, I'm running these metal boxes. I'm just gonna do one for now, just a 2-gang, and then that way it'll have the front lights on it and then the back lights. And then whatever I add later down the road, it'll be a similar setup. For the mounting screws, I got these little self-tapping kind of flat Phillips head screws, and they're great. I actually was worried about them going through the metal and it being difficult, but they go through really easy. Coupling on, just twisting in the ends. All right, so that one is secure. That is a switch box. This stuff is actually really nice. First time I used it, I think it's about 50 cents a foot. So I'm not really familiar with the electrical material world, but so far this has been worth it. I'm not sure if the metal conduit is cheaper. I just didn't have the equipment, the benders, and I've never messed with it, so I figured this would be pretty easy for the minimum amount of switches and receptacles I'm putting in right now just to get the shop going. This is the first line I ran on this front side. So this receptacle will be on a separate switch, and there's 3 of them. There's one all the way down there, one in the middle, and one on the far end of the shop. This will power the shop lights on this side, the back side of the building. And then this is the other circuit that I ran. These 3 will power the front lights of the shop. And then first receptacle, just like so. And that is the ground tied in. I'll lock that down just to hold my wires. And now you have your 2 whites and your 2 blacks. And I'll kind of separate those per the ground. And then I'll strip these. Make your little clamps or circles. Whites to the silver. I feel like I do it halfway right. Anyway, I like to get a good squeeze on it like that. This one dropped in good. This one didn't, so I like to squeeze it till it drops in the little wire holders. And then just tighten them up. And it doesn't matter which nut you put these on because this is a continuous receptacle. So these are just bridged together by this little clip right here. So if you wanted to, you can have these on separate circuits. You just got to break this little bridge clip off if you want to do that. Again, that one didn't drop in all the way, so I'll just take my strippers and drop it in. A little squeeze and then tighten it down. And that is it. And this one is done. Position it, kind of fold your wires how they'll kind of naturally go in one direction. I'll kind of help them out just a little bit. Make sure that there's no crimping on them. Line my bolt holes up. And then I will secure the receptacle in the box. And that is one receptacle wired up. And then I'm taking the slack. The wood is nice up here because then I can just hammer it in right here with my my little staple, and it's sitting nice. It's not touching any of the metal. It's grounded. I feel like this is a good wiring job in the metal shop. So now I just got 1, 2, 3 more to go. Hey, Mara.
Yeah. No, Mommy.
Mama, come here.
What?
What's your name, Mommy? Mommy?
On the thing over there in that blue box, we throw me 2 of those receptacles.
What's your next name?
I'm almost done. This looks really great. I'm really proud of myself.
This?
2 of those. It's wire.
Wire?
Toss them.
Yeah, this is
Don't have the
wire.
Trans Am.
You're the one that's responsible for catching.
Thank you, baby.
Welcome, honey.
Thank you, Mama.
You're welcome.
That completes the lights up top, the receptacles with the switches that we just wired up. Now we're gonna wire up a 20 amp 4 receptacle box. And for that, I just got this, they call it a whip, and it's a 10-foot 12-2 wire. So this will handle 20 amps, and it comes, you know, with a wire inside and your metal conduit on the outside. So I just grabbed this because it'll be super easy, and I'll be able to just run right off the panel, make one turn, and have a nice, you know, 4 receptacle 20 amp box that'll handle a lot of needs. Just like that. Here's the 20 amp outlet, and it's a double receptacle, so I just bridged my second receptacle, then I'll feed this first one, then they'll both get fed. This 12 gauge wire is definitely harder to work with than the 14 gauge is for sure. Then we'll just tie all these grounds together. I'm almost curious on how many grounds you can have on one spot. There's 4 here. I'm not sure if that's correct or what, but we're gonna roll with it. If you're using these metal covers, you do have to break the, I guess they call them Mickey Mouse ears, off of the receptacle. Alright, so far we have 3 circuits that we're gonna wire up on this panel. This one is the one I just did. It's 20 amp, so I'm gonna set that up here for now, and then these 2 are both gonna be 15 amps. On this panel and most panels, they do come with this bonding bar, which I took off already, but this bonding bar right here ties in your neutrals and your grounds together, which is supposed to be that way if it's your first panel after the meter, like your residential panel inside your house. On any sub panels after that first panel, you don't want them to be bonded. I'm not 100% sure why, but they need to have their own ground. So that being said, what I did is I took this bar off, and that actually separates this bar and this bar, meaning that I can use one bar for my neutrals. They will be separate. So this bar right here will actually be for my neutrals, and this bar will be for my grounds. And then you have this bonding screw right here. The only thing this screw does is that it actually goes through this plastic piece and it connects this ground strap or one of these straps, either or, to the actual panel. So it'd be no difference in taking this metal piece off right here and mounting it directly to the panel. That is your ground. And on a sub panel, you also have to have, you know, a grounding rod outside. So once we tie the wires in from the house, from our main panel, we'll run them outside. Then I'll also do a ground rod outside, and I'll bring the wire in, and that'll connect on this ground bar as well with all the other grounds. This neutral bar is going to be all the whites. And just to make sure that it wasn't bonded, because I'm not really familiar with this panel, but just to make sure, pull the neutral bar out. That way I know for a fact that there's no metal connector or binder back there that is connecting my neutrals and my grounds. So that being said, this bar is completely separate, and this will have all the whites, the neutrals on it. This will have all the grounds, the greens, and the bare coppers on it, and they will be totally separate. And then going down through here will be all the blacks, and my main line will come in through this hole right here, connecting to my upper fuse, and then it'll power up the rest of the strips. If my main power is coming in on this side, and it's going to come up on this side of the breaker and then curl around like this, that means there'll be pretty heavy wire right here because my mains are 2 gauge. So that being said, I will probably start and use this side of the breaker, and that way I will clip in all my circuits, and then all my wires, or most of them, will actually come on this side. So we'll have the heavy line power in coming out on this side, and we'll have our out circuits coming out on this side. It'll just look a little cleaner. Alright, the 100 amp sub panel is complete. It's installed in the interior of the shop. Let's see, we have 4 circuits, and that is definitely something that I actually enjoy doing. 3 15 amps and 1 20 amp. So we have 2 15s for our overhead lights. We have 1 15 receptacle for, you know, just a deep freezer and the garage door opener. And then we have a 20 amp for a shop. It's a double receptacle circuit, so we can get some heaters or tools or whatever we need. You know, this circuit for now, you know, temporarily in the beginning stages of our wiring, this setup should get us going. Our neutral bar is over here, and then we have our ground bar right here. It is separate, so we took the bonding strap out, and then we also bonded our ground bar to the panel. So that's why the grounds and the neutrals are separate, again, because it is a sub panel. And this is our 100 amp breaker right here. As you can see, the only thing we lack is right there. See that little hole? That will be where the power of the main line comes in from the house, and hopefully we will tackle that in the next couple of days. But yeah, the interior of the panel is done, and it was actually something, like I said, I actually enjoyed this. I would recommend it for everybody. Just a little bit of research, you can kind of you know, get on the right path and learn your do's and don'ts. So that's another job complete. As I said before in the video, I'm not a professional. I recommend you hire your own professional electrician to do this job for you. I reached out and did my own research, and I'm following my county code. And we're trying to save money. As always on this channel, we're dads, so we try and pinch pennies everywhere we can. It's one of those things where it's always has that stigma around it, the electricity in a house, and it's kind of, you know, it's very scary, you know, working with it, and when you're not familiar with it, especially if you're coming from an automotive side like myself. You know, when red is hot and black is ground, the home wiring is completely different, and you kind of have to let your brain, you know, forget all that automotive side of the electrical and kind of reset and learn all this new stuff with the home. But, you know, with getting prices for electricians doing this job, it was several thousands and thousands of dollars, and that was just something I didn't think it was worth the expense of doing. And hopefully in the next couple of days we will get the main power wires coming from the house into the back of the sub panel and actually get some lights on in the shop. Thank you guys for watching. We'll see you in the next one.